All right, so lesson 56 here. Jesus raises Lazarus. John chapter 11. Okay. Read the first 16 verses here at the beginning. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha, and her sister, and Lazarus. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days in the same place where he was. Then, after that, he saith to his disciples, Let us go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. Then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Let's stop there, the first part of the story here. Okay? What's going on there? Well, Jesus is in some other place. Okay? He gets the news that a good friend of his, friend he loved, Lazarus, is sick, very sick. Lazarus is his friend, along with Lazarus' two sisters, Mary and Martha. He'd stayed at their house. They had shown him great hospitality. Jesus probably had many wonderful conversations with Lazarus. But Jesus decides not to go right away, and he says that in verse 4. Why does he not go right away? What's his reason in verse 4 for not going right now? What does he say there? Megan? All right. Good. Yes. He's doing it for the glory of God. There is a greater plan in store than for Jesus to go right now and heal him. So Jesus instead waits how many days, Micah? In the end, yes. But how many days did he wait at first? You're right. How many days did he wait at first, Jen? 2 days. Okay? 2 days. You know the story so well, you're getting ahead of it here. 2 days Jesus waited. Okay? And after that, he kind of makes an announcement to his disciples that he wants to go to Judea, to Jerusalem. And of course, what do his disciples think about that? What do his disciples think? Kimberly. They don't like it. Yeah, they don't like him going. Why not? What are they afraid of? Why don't they like that he would go to Jerusalem? Garrett?
Because the Pharisees would try to kill him.
Tried to kill him, stoned him already. If you do that, Jesus, you're being foolish. You're walking right into a trap. They're doing all that they can to get you there. Jesus throws out that phrase there. They're not 12 hours in the day. What's his meaning by that? Are there not 12 hours in the day? What's Jesus' point? It's a little bit tricky here. Hey, let's take a stab at it. Emma? What do you think? Why is he throwing that all of a sudden in there? Take a guess. What's the point he's trying to make? Grant, help her out? What do you think? Just take a guess. Wild guess even. Trying to teach them about how to tell time? No. So what's he doing then? Jesse? You have to remember back. Wait. Oh, Garrett, you have a guess? Let's hear it. It's a good guess, but no, that's not what it is. Good try. We have to go back to some of our first lessons about Jesus. Already, right away when Jesus started his ministry, what did some people try to do to him? Right away when he was up there in Galilee. What do they want to do to him? Right away. He started his ministry. Already Satan was at work. What did they try to do to him? Jen, what do you think? That is something that some of them tried to do, but the Pharisees didn't. What did they try to do? Right away in his ministry. Shove him off a cliff, right? Kill him. Good. Shove him off that cliff. Kill him. But Jesus told us back then already, what did he say? It has to do with the clock and time. Jesse, my time has not yet come. Okay? It's not time for me to die. There's a time for this and a time for that. The clock hasn't gone all the way around. And that's what Jesus is still saying here to his disciples. My time is not yet come. There are 12 hours in the day, are there not? I'm only this part of the way through. Maybe 3/4, we could say. Getting closer to the end, but it's not yet time. Do not worry, my heavenly Father would not have me die. Okay, yet at this time. Anyways, then he throws out another confusing phrase, at least for his disciples. We can look back at it now and understand it right away, but they didn't. And he said, well, let's go see my friend Lazarus now. I know that he sleepeth. And what's the reaction of the disciples? What did they think about hearing that word that Lazarus was sleeping? Hannah? What do they think about that? Okay. When one is sick, what does one need to do? Jesse? Sleep. Rest. Okay. While you're resting, while you're sleeping, your body is fighting off the virus or whatever may be in your body. Okay. That's why if you were in a horrific accident, some doctors even put you into a coma. Okay, a chemically induced coma where you're not awake for days or even weeks. So that during that time, your body can spend all of its energy recovering and trying to heal itself. So that's what the disciples think here. They think, well, Master, if he's sleeping, that's great. His body is healing itself. Let's not go bother him. Remember, they're afraid of going to Jerusalem or Judea, so they just want to come up with any excuse not to go. And then Jesus has to bluntly tell them what? That he's not sleeping, Kenton. He's dead. So now they're probably thinking, well, if he's dead, what are we going to do then? What's the point? Let's just stay here. But Jesus says, no, I need to go to teach. And then that Thomas, what's his nickname? Remember, what do we call Thomas? Micah? Doubting Thomas. Kind of throws up his hands as though he's throwing in the towel and giving up, saying, well, if he's going to go, we might as well all go because we're all going to, Grant, die. Jesus is going to go die. Well, we might as well go with him. Let's die with him. It's all bad here. Doubting Thomas is a glass half what kind of guy? A glass half, Emma? Empty. He sees the negatives of everything. He can't find anything positive in anything. All right, but let's continue on. Let's see the actual activity that Jesus does here in verse 17. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. So for probably the 2 days that he rested, plus the days that Jesus had to travel. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off, and many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus saith unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. And when she had said so, she went her way, and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come, and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then, which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Let's just quickly stop there a second. So Jesus continues on his way, and who's the first to come out to meet him, Joe? No, Martha. Martha comes out and meets him. She laments that Jesus had not gotten there sooner. That was her intention in sending the word to Jesus about her sick brother, was that he would come and heal him. But now it's all lost. My brother's died. You should have come. You could have helped him. But he's dead now. Jesus then challenges her. Speaks about the resurrection. Obviously, we know, again, being able to know the whole story, we can see and go, well, Jesus was talking about raising Lazarus. But Martha said no, she believed that her brother would die or would be risen again at the end. But she shows great faith there. She calls Jesus her Lord and says that she knows who she is. And shows great faith that way, but yet she lacks faith that Jesus could bring Lazarus back from the dead. So after speaking to Jesus, she runs back to the house and tells her sister, and now Mary comes running out. And with her, a group of Jews as well followed her, thinking she was going to the grave. Instead, they see Jesus and her speaking with him. And again, she says the same thing. She laments that Jesus had not gotten there sooner because he could have healed Lazarus of his sickness, and he wouldn't have died. And Jesus groaned, we read. Jesus was upset. In fact, that short verse of the Bible there, Jesus wept because they don't get it. They're missing the main point. So instead, Jesus says, well, let's go to the grave then. So let's again pick it up in verse 39 here. Jesus saith, Take ye away the stone, Martha. The sister of him that was dead said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, Loose him, and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. Jesus gets to the cave, and he orders that big stone to be rolled away. And in there, whether he saw or peered in or not even having to, but we know that Lazarus' body is laying in that tomb, wrapped up in some type of linens. Back in those days, well, let's look at today. Somebody dies. Funeral might not be for 3 or 4 days after they die. Nowadays, with the knowledge of the body and technology, they're able to drain all of the fluids out of the body. And instead, they put some type of chemicals in there that will help preserve the body, to keep it from stinking for a few days. Okay? Otherwise, within a day, that body would be stinking and putrid, and no one would want to come to the funeral home because it would be foul smelling in there. Okay? Attracting bugs and flies, that dead body would. And so, back in the Bible times, they didn't understand or have the science that we have today, so they knew very quickly after the man died, they had to embalm the body, probably put some sweet-smelling salts and things already there, so that already within a few hours the body would begin to decay and start to smell, and wrap that up so that they could have at least one day of a service, and those smelling salts and whatever was in there could help cover up the stench and the stink. But quickly they had to get the body into the grave because it was going to start rotting, everything else. So, right before Jesus, or after Jesus orders that, and before the stone is rolled away, Martha kind of gives a warning. Now, Jesus, it's going to stink. Why would we want to do that? Maybe she thinks Jesus just wants to go in there and kneel down before her brother Lazarus and put his hand on him and say a prayer for him one last time. Maybe that's what she's thinking, not that he will be risen from the dead, because then she would be encouraging the stone to be rolled away. Yes, Jesus is going to raise my brother from the dead. No, that's not the case. She probably thinks he just wants to see him one last time. Stone is rolled away. Jesus utters a prayer to his Father in heaven, saying, I know that you will answer my prayers. Whatever I ask of thee, thou wilt do. And I don't need to say that normally out loud, but I say that out loud here in front of all these people so that they hear that when I pray to thee in heaven, thou wilt answer my prayers. Thou art my Father. And I say that publicly before all here. And then Jesus turns and projects his voice into the cave. Lazarus, come forth. And by a miracle, the body of Lazarus, wrapped up in those linens, probably stumbling along, comes out of the cave. And you can imagine maybe some of the women fainting in the crowd, others with their hands over their mouths, pagan worshiping Jews falling down and praying to their gods for fear and trembling of what has been done. But all of them can see that what Jesus has done here was a miracle, raising Lazarus from the dead. They're so stunned. What does Jesus has to tell them quickly to go do? Garrett.
Should we remove his grave clothes?
Yeah, take off those bands so the man can walk and not stumble, so he can breathe. Many believed because of what Jesus had done here. Great miracle that Jesus has performed. Planned out by his heavenly Father to work perfectly. Now, in the meantime, what happened to Lazarus' body? We insinuated on Friday a few things. How did that work? We don't believe in a purgatory, a place where you go before you go to heaven or hell. So what was going on? Give some guesses, some possibilities. Garrett, you had your hand raised. What were you thinking?
He might have been dreaming, like he was actually sleeping.
Okay. Micah? Okay. Any other guesses? Those are both very great, valid guesses. We don't know exactly. We don't need to know. All we need to know is what Jesus has done, and that it was a picture of his resurrection from the grave too, and a promise to us that our bodies will be raised one day and go to heaven. But like Garrett said, could have been that God prepared a special, deep sleep to come over Lazarus so that he had no heartbeat and he wasn't breathing. Kind of like a hibernating animal. Okay? In hibernation, an animal like a bear, their heart might only beat once or twice a minute. Barely detectable. Hardly even breathing. Okay? So it appears as though the animal might be dead, but they're not. Or, like Micah said, God could have prepared a special place, not in heaven or hell. Okay? God doesn't tell us here. But we do know that Lazarus did not go to heaven and he did not go to hell. And those things we can say he did not do. Okay? But God prepared some type of deep sleep, because Jesus says a few verses earlier, he sleepeth. They provided something to cause Lazarus so that to all others it appeared as though he was dead. Lazarus was probably not conscious of what was going on around him. God did a miracle here. Okay? So, we can know too, again, this is a beautiful picture that you too will be raised from the dead one day. We can look forward to that day.